India. You've probably heard the phrase unity in diversity to describe it, right? It's this idea of a place with countless cultures, languages, and beliefs all living side by side. But what does that really look like on the ground? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down that incredible diversity that truly defines Indian society. And we'll also explore the powerful forces that manage to bind it all together. So let's dive right in. And a great place to start is with this huge question, one our source material puts front and center. What does it mean to be Indian? There's no easy answer here. There's no single definition. It's more like a complex mosaic, a picture built from thousands of years of history, migrations, and people interacting. So to really get the big picture, we first have to appreciate all of its many, many pieces. All right, so that tees us up perfectly for our first section. We're about to go on a whirlwind tour through the key forms of diversity that make up the Indian social fabric. We're talking everything from race and religion to language and even gender. First up, let's talk about racial diversity. Early on, anthropologists like Dr. B.S. Guha actually classified the population into 6 main racial groups. But here's the thing, our source material makes very clear. Today, there are really no pure racial types. We're talking about millennia of people moving around and mixing, which has created this immense racial heterogeneity. Next, we've got religion. Now, you can see from this census data that India is overwhelmingly Hindu. But it's also home to one of the world's largest Muslim populations, not to mention millions of Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, the list goes on. So India isn't just multi-religious, it's literally the birthplace of 4 major world religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism.
And then there's the languages. The linguistic diversity is just staggering. The Constitution of India officially recognizes 22 languages, but even those fall into several major language families. As you can see here, you've got the Indo-Aryan languages up north, the Dravidian languages in the south, and so many others. This linguistic tapestry is absolutely a core part of India's identity.
This brings us to regional identity, and this slide illustrates the idea perfectly. Our identities aren't just one thing, they're layered. So someone can be a Mumbaikar from the city of Mumbai, and also a Maharashtrian from the state of Maharashtra, and an Indian, and a South Asian, and an Asian, all at the exact same time. And each of those layers comes with its own unique history, food, and customs. Of course, you can't really talk about Indian society without talking about caste. It's a hugely complex system, but our source breaks it down along 2 main lines. First, there's Varna, which is the broad 4-part ideological framework you might have heard of. But then there's Jati, which is much more specific. It refers to the thousands of distinct local community groups that have traditionally defined social structures and even occupations. And finally, there's a growing awareness around gender diversity. The source introduces this term heteronormativity, which is basically the idea that society is structured around a male-female binary. But it also points out that India is gradually opening up to a better understanding of gender fluidity, recognizing that this isn't some new Western concept, but something that actually has roots in traditional Indian culture too. So with all these different layers of identity, racial, religious, linguistic, regional, you have to wonder, how does a country like this even hold together? Well, this quote from our source really gets to the heart of it. The perspective for a long time has been that all this variety isn't a problem. It's a strength. It's a treasure. And that idea is the perfect bridge to our next section. So how does this unity actually happen? What are the invisible threads holding this whole tapestry together? Now we're going to explore the factors of unity, the shared experiences and systems that create a sense of oneness across this incredibly diverse landscape. Our source material points to several key pillars that help build this national unity. We're going to quickly touch on the roles that geography, religion, the Constitution, and culture all play. Geographically, India has this amazing shared rhythm. Take the monsoon, for example. It's a subcontinent-wide event that connects everyone. It dictates the cycles of farming, which is why you see similar harvest festivals celebrated across the country, just with different names, like Pongal in the south, Baisakhi in the north, and Bihu in the east. And when it comes to religion, there's this long, rich tradition of accommodation. Look at this incredible photo from the Thrissur Puram festival. Major religious festivals and pilgrimage sites often attract people of all faiths. This shared participation in really important sacred events creates these incredibly powerful bonds of unity. Now, the real political glue holding everything together is the Constitution of India. It's so crucial. It establishes a single rule of law for every single citizen, and it promotes an ideology where everyone is supposed to be equal. And through policies like affirmative action, it actively tries to include marginalized communities, providing one common legal and political framework for everybody.
And finally, there's cultural unity. The source highlights that Indian culture has this unique knack for absorbing influences from the outside while still holding on to its core identity. Over centuries, this has created what's called a composite culture, this amazing blend of traditions that is just distinctly recognizably Indian.
But let's be real, this whole process isn't always a smooth, happy story. The relationship between diversity and unity is always in motion, and it's often full of tension. So in our final section, we're going to look at some of the major challenges to national integration that our source material points out.
Two of the most significant challenges are casteism and communalism. Our source defines them as a kind of excessive loyalty to your own group, whether it's your caste or your religion, that puts the group's interests above the nation's. And when these identities get politicized, they can create deep mistrust and sometimes serious conflict.
A very similar challenge is something called linguism. While linguistic diversity is celebrated, an extreme loyalty or fanaticism towards one's own language can spark conflicts, especially between dominant regional languages and linguistic minorities living within the same state. And here's an interesting twist. Even policies designed to create unity can become points of major tension. The reservation policy, which is a form of affirmative action, is a tool meant to fix historical inequalities. But the debates around how it's implemented and who gets these quotas are a huge and often very divisive part of India's political life.
And all of this brings us to our final lingering question. Really, the story of India is a story of constant negotiation. It's a perpetual balancing act between its countless identities and the need for a unified, shared future. There are definitely no easy answers, but understanding the sheer depth of its diversity and the strength of the threads that create its unity, well, that's the first step to appreciating this truly remarkable social experiment.